to see you all. Good to see people. Again, people. More people than two. And I can see faces. We're wearing pants. Look at this. It's definitely not my apartment anymore. That is for sure. I think we all look pretty good, quite frankly, after being shut up for a while. I'm not quite there. I think I'm like most people. I consider myself Zoom presentable at this point. Like, I feel really good from like here to here and only the front. Everything below here and around the back, I got a couple of months. I'm gonna work on that for a little bit, but good to see you all. Glad you all made it through the quarantine. I hope everybody had somebody to spend it with. I was excited about my spending time with my wife. We're coming up on 5 years this fall. Pretty exciting. 6 if you get out of the quarantine, because that's 2. If you count them for, that's like the gold ball at the end of Price is Right or something. And I think it was really important. I mean, a lot of people wonder, like, how do you stay with somebody? We're in a fairly small apartment. It's like, how do you two manage not to get on each other's nerves all the time? And I don't want to say that the secret is the fact that we're both somewhere on the ADD spectrum. However, your house feels so much bigger if you forget you live with someone else. It's a remarkable thing. I would forget often. I would walk out of the kitchen, see my wife on the couch. Oh, hey, how's it going? All right, cool. Then 5 minutes later, I'd hear a toilet flush. Like, somebody broke into my apartment. All right. I'm glad, though, that before this whole quarantine started, though, we were already in a very good, sort of secure place. We were married. We were living together. I know that there were a lot of couples that kind of were advanced to that next stage because of quarantine. And there were some people who were not ready for this at all. And I'm sure that there were a handful of couples that broke up over some very petty arguments. I guarantee you somebody came home and was like, hey, you know what I noticed is that when you put your clothes away, you hung them on my hangers, and then you put them on my side of the closet. So, yeah, we're done. That's the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't see that coming, but your stuff is in a box out in the hallway, so. But I think it was important, though, that because we had already had conversations about a lot of the little types of things, and usually with roommates, she is my roommate. She's the cleanest, best roommate I've ever had. She's the only roommate I've had who I haven't had to get into an argument with about dishes, which is fun. I thought I was going to have one of those roommates throughout the rest of my life. Always just one person who didn't want to do the dishes. One dude didn't want to do the dishes, would leave dishes in his room, even refused to buy dish soap. Like, to kind of chip in, he's like, no, you guys will figure it out. I don't know if anybody's ever had a fly problem before. And not just flies, but where it's a fly problem. To that point where, and I'm not talking about house flies, because house flies everybody has. No matter how clean your house is, you're going to wake up one morning with just something buzzing the tower around you. Oh, shit. Wow, what is that? It's a big Jurassic Park bug. I need a crossbow. What is... We had fruit flies, the little tiny ones. You familiar with those? Camp out in your sink like a little surprise party. Shh. Somebody puts a dish in there. Surprise! Hey! You live in squalor. I could hear them taunt me when I got home from the grocery store. They'd be like, you bought a banana. I'm going to live the rest of my life on that banana. I figured it out. Until Tuesday. That's all I got, but... We would have friends that came over that would try and give us tips. They're like, oh, you got flies? All right, here's what you do. You take a cup and you pour some dish soap in there, and then they'll fly in and they'll die. I was like, sweet, dude, if we had dish soap, we wouldn't have flies in the first place. Mike, you remember that? No dish soap. Cool. Find out the only way to get rid of fruit flies is to get one of those little sticky no-fly strips. No, lying. That's a classy purchase to make. The ladies love to see that over your place. Oh, wow, you collect things. No, I don't want to put my purse down anywhere. It's frustrating how effective a no-fly strip is, because it's just a big, sticky, smelly strip, and you put it up there, and flies just immediately start landing all over it. And I just was looking, I was like, I almost started feeling bad when you see one just going, honest. It smells pretty good. A lot of dead friends of mine over there. I'm gonna go real fast. And then, it's like driving around a McDonald's with a bunch of bodies out in front of it. It's like, There's a lot of corpses, dude. I'm not gonna lie. That's see, ooh, French fries. We had a lot of flies. We also had a lot of spiders as well, which, well, I live in the Northwest, so we don't really have the scary kinds of spiders, but there's something about just spider leg movement weirds me out. Even the daddy long legs would freak me out, and I know that is the wussiest spider with no poison whatsoever, but something about the leg movement would just freak me out. That goes, excuse me, hi, just don't mind me. I'm just gonna go behind your dryer. See if you anything. What? You never clean back here. Did you know that? Okay, let's. It's not a scary spider. The daddy long legs. They're really terrifying spiders. There's the black widow and the brown recluse. In South America, there is the Goliath bird-eating spider, which I have to give it up to the scientists for not even trying to come up with a better name than that. I just picture two British guys down in the jungle. It's like, oh, look at this. New species of arachnid jumps and the front legs are a bit longer. He's eating a bird. Bird-eating spider. I call dibs on that one. That's mine. You can have the penguin-eating scorpion. That goes. There you go. That's fine. But it's nice to kind of be in a place where now our house feels clean, because there's a big sort of change in overall expectations when you get together with somebody. You should have that conversation of like, what does clean look like for you? Because everybody has their own definition of what clean looks like. Varies from person to person. I think a lot of times it's kind of carried over from whatever cleanliness of household you grew up in. So like, I know some people, if you were to come home and let's say the night before you left out like a pizza box and a couple of dishes in the sink and a couple of cans out, you don't think anything of it. Growing up, if I had come home to my house and walked in the kitchen and seen all of those items there, I then would have called 911 because my mother has been kidnapped. There's no way she left the house of her own accord with those things left behind. So. But it's important to have those conversations about cleanliness. We've kind of gotten now to a point where we're vacuum shopping. Actually, I bought a new vacuum last year that cost more than I spent on video games in a year. So I got my adult merit badge for that one. Yeah, it feels good. And I like vacuuming. I have to be honest, I like vacuuming. I didn't always, I think I've just been doing it for a long period of time, that I've gotten pretty good at it. And I'm also just, I love vacuuming because I love our vacuum now, because it's not the vacuum I had as a kid. And all the vacuums that you had when you were 5 or 6 years old were just incredibly heavy and unwieldy, and you were supposed to do stairs with them, even though they couldn't go on stairs. They're just... Okay, I smell burnt carpet. That can't be right, man. I don't know who this Dyson dude is, but that dude hated vacuuming growing up. It's like, it's so unwieldy and heavy. I don't know if that's what his accent is, but that's what I've convinced myself of, at least. I got pretty good with vacuum cleaners. I got good at fixing vacuum cleaners because when I went to college, in my fraternity, we'd never had a new vacuum cleaner. We just had like a Legion fleet of all the other old vacuums that parents would give to us. It was like telling somebody you like send the dog to a farm upstate. It's like, well, we're gonna send Hoover away to the fraternity. But there's lots of long open hallways there, lots of new things for it to pick up along the way. This is what it wants. But we had to keep a whole bunch because we would have a party, fire up one of the vacuums, it would go about 20 feet, and then there would be a loud noise, some smoke, and it would stop working. You're like, okay, next one. All right, there we go. When I moved out of college, I actually really wanted to get a Roomba. Moved into a house with 3 other guys. I was like, look, we don't like vacuuming. Wouldn't a Roomba be kind of like a perfect solution for us? And then I saw the size of a Roomba. And I was like, that's not gonna work. That's too small. That thing will go like 3 feet, just, okay. I'm full, all right, I'll just go back. Empty that out. Maybe I'll pick a new direction this time. Okay. Wow, that felt above my pay grade. Okay, all right. All right. I like our new vacuum, though. It's very nice. We actually, I like our vacuum so much that we actually have to play a game to decide who gets to vacuum the apartment. And my wife never wins because I never let her play. I think she'll do it wrong. I don't know if that's... I think we're also starting to look at a house, which is nice, and I'm looking at that like, well, it's a lot of place to vacuum. I'm just very excited. But I'm going to try and make sure that we don't have one of those sort of like shoes-off only households, or even if you do, at least have one of those rooms. I don't want to have that room off to the side that I feel like all my friends had growing up, where it was like, well, this is our sitting room where none of us sit. I think we played a game of charades in there in the 80s, actually. Those perfectly mown little kind of carpet stripes there. I like that. I like the pattern kind of thing. I feel like vacuuming is a nice kind of run-up for mowing the lawn. Kind of like if you can move, make some nice stripes kind of around. That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to having a yard and doing some yard work. I'm going to tell you right now, though, after spending some time in the pandemic, I am not going to purchase a leaf blower. No, the rest of you own leaf blowers? Because if you do, we hate you. If you start up a leaf blower, I guarantee you the only person who enjoys that, the person who's using the leaf blower. Everybody else around, their first thought is, really? I hope he hurts himself. It's such an annoying sound. It's like a little bit flat. It just it kind of sounds like a leaf blower answered the phone, is looking for a pen. Hang on a second. I'm just It's a terrible sound because it's only one sound. If they would release like 3 blowers at a time and like each take a different chord, like a different pitch, and make like a chord or something the whole time. Oh, that sounds very nice, actually. I didn't realize that we were actually possibly going to be able to get a home. That my wife is tremendously good with finances and everything like that. I was not for a long time. I'm better now, but I could definitely tell, my wife could tell that she was going to need to do some of the heavy lifting. We hadn't been dating for too long, and then I got laid off. And I said to her, I was like, hey, sweetheart, don't worry. I've been poor before. It's totally not that bad. One of those phrases that when you hear the final word leave your mouth, you're like, that wasn't right. That's not what you wanted to hear. Because I always thought that I would be better at money. I think I'm a fairly smart dude. I remember early on when I was young, finding out what my IQ was, and then somebody else said to me, it's like, hey, don't get bogged down in just one number. One number doesn't dictate how smart you are. Or how good you are at one thing. And then I learned what a credit score was. And I learned that's just one number that really does dictate how smart you are at one thing. And if you haven't been paying attention, it's too late already. I feel better about money stuff now. I feel like I'm a little bit more put together. I once dated a girl that was almost too good with money things at the time for me. She was the actual branch manager of a bank. So she would come home with financial problems. She'd be like, there's so many people out there overdrawn. I'd have to be like, it's my people, actually, that you're talking about. I didn't know anything about finance. So even on like our first dates, like she would be telling me about her day and using all kinds of banking terms, APR, HELOC loans, refinancing. And I had to finally stop her and be like, hold on a second. I got to ask you one question. And I'm sure you probably get this all the time. But do you get a deal on money? How does that work? Do you... So like a secret Jamba Juice menu that you ask for and they give you an extra 20? Or is it... Did they give you a bag of the day-old money they were going to throw away? How does that... She said to me, you know what your problem is? You don't make a budget. You should make a budget for yourself every month. I was like, I don't need to make a budget, sweetie. It's gone every month. That's not a problem. It's not like I can't spend it. It's just gone. And, right? It's not like I have a bunch left over. I don't know where to invest or anything. And just buy candy online. But I did do that. I did just buy candy online and had it delivered, which... I swear, I could see like the 6-year-old version of myself be like, nice. So, I also realized at some point I didn't need to have a lot of money. I just needed to have enough money so that when I went to Subway and they asked for my debit card, my buttocks wouldn't tighten up quite so much. Like that was my goal. Because honestly, it's kind of a shady sort of point when it gets to that. Your food's already ready by the time they ask for the payment. So that can be kind of awkward if you're not able to kind of produce anything else. All I carried was just like cash, debit card, credit card chip sailed a long time ago. So this is kind of what I did come up with one idea. If your debit card is ever declined at a Subway, just pretend you are going through a really messy breakup. Right? So then when they're like, all right, that'll be $7.48, you have your debit card, and they swipe it. Like, okay, you know, that's actually not going through. They'd be like, oh, really? Unbelievable. Pull out your phone. Really, Karen, my debit card? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry. And then walk out. It's very awkward. They won't ask any more questions, but you do need to find a new Subway. But they're everywhere, so that's not bad. This has been a lot of fun. This is not the first time I had to spend more time indoors than I had planned on regarding the quarantine and such. About 3 years ago, I was involved in a really serious car accident up in Seattle. I was crossing the street, and a guy in a pickup truck didn't see me and hit me while going like 35 miles an hour. And then I woke up 3 days later in the hospital. Which, the only other time that I had that experience of just kind of like waking up somewhere that I didn't remember, I usually felt the need to apologize to people. It was, I woke up, I was like, I'm sorry why I'm here, I don't know. You all look happy to see me. Okay, that's great. No, But I broke my knee, I broke my shoulder, I had an epidural hematoma and I needed emergency brain surgery, which it kind of led me to really figure out that your head itself is kind of like an iPhone. You can open it and fix it, but you're really not supposed to. They really don't want you to do that at all. Because if you reach around to the back of your head and you kind of feel right around here, you won't find a latch for opening your head, because it's not there. It's not supposed to be there. So now every time I go to the doctor, I had brain surgery at the top of my chart, and it kind of skews off whatever flow chart they were going to get to ask me sort of like what the problem was. Now I figured out that really just my head is kind of like a piece of electronics where, you know, when you flip it over and there's that sticker that's like, warranty will be void if the seal is broken. That's what my head is now. It's a void, it's a warranty broken head, and they're kind of like, we don't know what goes on from there. And so it was an unfortunate thing, but at the same time, I'm also very lucky. That's all that I can really think about all this, because there are a lot of reasons why I should not be here at all. So the fact that I was only a 15-minute ambulance ride to the hospital, and as a matter of fact, the doctor said to me, you know, if you had been injured in this same injury anywhere in the state of Washington, we would have flown you to this hospital. So the fact that you were only a short ambulance ride is very lucky. And as a matter of fact, on top of that, when I was hit by the truck, I was thrown towards the hospital. So I was on my way before I even landed, so I thought that had to be worth something. But it did give me a lot of appreciation for some very kind of basic things in life. I mean, Always give people compliments if you can. You never know when you won't get to say something nice to somebody again. Give people compliments. If you can, on a piece of paper, I would highly recommend writing down the names of like 3 people you really trust and putting that in your wallet. Because if you happen to find yourself in the hospital, you might be surrounded by some people you didn't necessarily expect were going to be there. So I'd write down the names of like 3 people you are really comfortable showing your bare buttocks to. Because you're not going to be aware of everything that happens. And you might run into somebody later and be like, hey, why don't you come see me in the hospital? And they're like, we did see you. We saw a lot of you, actually. I have to say, I love my wife. She's wonderful. We also have found that it's a great thing to have somebody there when you get to sort of an awkward moment and you feel like, I don't know what I would do just by myself here. But fortunately, I can kind of check in with this as a person to be like, this is nuts, right? Like that's half of the joy. Like for instance, I found that I'm such a nice dude, I don't like to be in uncomfortable situations where I have to extricate myself. And the one that I've not figured out how to get myself out of is when you're in a situation and you're about to buy something, and then you find out it is gonna be way more than you thought it was going to cost. And finding a way to just back out and be like, I'm sorry, no money, and then walk out. Like it's... So I hadn't really been fully experienced with this, but then for Christmas, my wife bought me a couple of prints off of Etsy, and she was like, why don't we go and get them framed? And I don't know if anybody's ever been to a framing store before, but the whole feeling of something about to cost a lot more than you thought it was going to cost might as well just say on the top of every frame store. So I got these 2 prints. They're kind of nice. They're rolled up in a little tube. Going to the museum quality framing store where my wife had purchased a $75 gift certificate for $150 worth of museum quality framing. And I was like, this sounds great. We're going to have so much money for leftover frames at the end of this. So we walk into the shop, nobody else in there. By the way, usually when you walk into a frame store, nobody else in the shop. You have the full undivided attention of the person working there. Whatever sort of like pressure sensors that they put into like jewelry stores, they also put into frame stores. So if you step on one, some dude walks out the back, hi, how you doing? We had his full undivided attention. Guy comes out, he's like, hi, what are we doing for you today? I was like, well, I got these 2 print things here. He's like, oh, okay. Clears off his whole table. He unrolls them, puts like some leather weights on. They're all fancy. I'm like, oh, that's cool. All right. He's like, so cool. These are great. What are you thinking today? I was like, flat. Flat on a wall. That's pretty much. They're in a tube now, and that's not doing anything for anyone. So, what do you got? And he's like, okay, well, let's see. Let's take a look here. So we've got this. Now, what kind of matting do you want to go with these frames? I was like, matting? He was like, oh yeah, do you want to just like some matting? I call out these. I was like, oh, interesting. He's like, yeah, because this one is like brown and yellow, so we could do some matting with like this dark green and kind of a forest color in here. We could do then some yellow. I was like, you can do 2 mats? He's like, oh, we can do 2 mats. We can do 3 mats. I was like, all right, this is cool. I'm having fun at the frame store. All right, all right, cool. And then he's like, what do you want for, what do you think about the actual frame themselves? I was like, I'm thinking right angles. That's it. I'm not really too picky. He's like, because we have all these various options here. And he turns around that big wall of fancy boomerangs that they have at the frame store. He's pulling out like that little hook and getting ones off the top. Just these ones are nice. He's hanging them down here. I'm like, okay. And then he says, now, glass. What do you want to do about glass? I was like, that sounds nice. Let's do it. And he's like, because we have a couple of different options for glass. We have the regular glass, and then we also have the museum quality framing glass. And I don't know if anybody's ever seen the display between the regular glass and the museum quality glass. The regular glass looks like it's just been cleaned with pizza. And it's got scuffs and scratches. It looks like it was trying to keep like a Doberman back for a while or something. And then the museum quality glass, it looks like it's made of an element you never knew existed. It's just kind of like, I probably don't, oh wow, that's actually hard. I thought it was a force field kind of thing, but there's something there I wouldn't have guessed. Okay. All right, well, I think we're gonna probably want to go with the museum quality glass then. And so, by the way, where are we at, just from a price standpoint? He's like, okay, well, let's see where we sit right here. And he pulled out one of those little solar-powered tabletop calculators. If you ever see one of those come out somewhere, you're gonna pay a lot because that thing's all off the books, no internet. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of money. So he's typing it up. He's like, okay, let's see here. All right, so for this one here, for the Captain America one, we're looking at $380. That's if we go with the regular glass, or if we do the museum quality glass, $420. And I turned to my wife and I was like, 40 cents? That doesn't seem like such a big deal. And then that moment, I was like, dollars? No. And I remember it getting so hot in the store, I was like, okay. All right, so, wow, okay, well, first of all, thank you for all the hard work that you've done here, sir. Now, if I were to tell you that I have a $150 Groupon that I was hoping to exit the store without having to pay any more money, what would you say to that? He was like, you don't have anything but the Groupon? I was like, yep. He was like, okay. He just grabbed all the stuff they've been working on, just kind of shoved it all into the bin over on the side, and then reached under the counter. Might as well just pull out a box that had crap frames on them. And he's like, all right, here we go. Let's see, we could do this brown one here, and then we could do this silver. Oh, it's chipped. All right, no, it's black one here. So brown and silver. You think of that? I'm like, yeah, no adding? He's like, no adding, regular glass. I was like, oh, okay. So as he's finishing all this and tabbing it up, it still cost me like an extra $74 on top of all of this to get these things framed. And as he's typing them up, he also was like, oh, quick question, what is the approximate retail value of this? So just, we need to insure it for, if it's damaged as we're working on it. I was like, sweetie, what do you think? $40? I think $40, I think was the approximate retail value. This is not like a piece of Abraham Lincoln's hat or something that I'm giving you that I need to be entombed in lucite or anything. And so as this guy is adding everything up, I'm looking around the store, and I notice they have all these other framed pieces of artwork that are larger and cheaper than what I'm going to be purchasing. So part of me was kind of like, hey, can I just buy one of these and you just cut up the raw goods and that would just be enough for you? And apparently no. My other suspicion is that all of these framed works that are in these framing shops were actually projects that somebody had brought in. And then when they showed up, they were like, wait, you want how much for it? Keep it. And now you have so many pictures of ducks, you'll never know what to do with them all. So you guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much.